Tonight unfolded more favorably than Eva had anticipated. She and her companions savored an exquisite meal in Miami's South Beach. It wasn't the gourmet food that captivated her, but the engaging company. Braxton Perrin admired Eva, even desiring her intensely. Eva, a woman in her prime, managed the family's perfume enterprise, where Braxton, 24, had recently joined as a junior finance professional that year. Eva often selected new partners from the recent recruits, and Braxton was her latest choice. She had grown weary of her husband, though they had been married for just over 2 years. He remained reserved in his role as the company's finance chief. Eva found him unexciting yet reliable. Their intimacy was rare, just enough to sustain the relationship. Martin, Eva's husband, stood tall at 6 feet 2 inches and maintained a fit physique from his daily swims, but Eva considered him unremarkable. She never criticized his appearance and was privately proud to be his wife. However, he lacked the captivating presence required for public engagements to promote the brand. He performed better behind the scenes, which likely influenced her decision to marry him. She sought sound financial management and the backing of a dependable individual. It wasn't that she didn't care for him, but she yearned for a younger man to completely fulfill her physical desires. Eva was the public image of Sache Fragrances, frequently appearing in television commercials and magazines. At 45, she remained a leading personality in both her professional and private life. She possessed brown hair, flawless makeup, and chic attire, bearing a striking resemblance to a younger screen star. Her previous romantic entanglements before her marriage to Martin were hidden. Braxton represented Eva's most recent attempt at finding a new paramour. This marked their initial date and her first liaison since becoming wed. Her personal protection team investigated Braxton extensively, unearthing no significant secrets apart from one unsuccessful university romance. He appeared genuine and trustworthy, which Eva found refreshing as she reviewed the report. Eva intended to delve deeper into Braxton's background. Despite being an accountant, he was engaging and courteous. His attractive appearance and modern attire caught her eye one afternoon when she visited the accounting department to see Martin. Braxton was upbeat and stylish, unlike Martin, who favored old-fashioned business wear from decades past. Martin married Eva because he loved her and admired her beauty and sharp intellect. As a powerful CEO in the competitive perfume sector, Eva seemed equally devoted to him. They dated for nearly a year before he proposed, and she immediately accepted. Martin hadn't planned to work for Eva, but once engaged, he decided to get involved in the business. He proved invaluable by skillfully transforming the firm's long-standing liabilities into private investments. Proudly, Eva named him CFO of Sache Fragrances and recognized him as her partner. Martin was aware of Eva's previous relationships with younger individuals prior to their engagement. They talked about it at length, and Eva assured him those past connections were over. Since she hadn't been married before, her history held no bearing. Despite suspecting she might continue, Martin hoped otherwise. He maintained their marriage, trusting Eva and overlooking her past. However, he stressed that loyalty was vital for their bond to endure. At 39 and 43 respectively, they enjoyed regular passionate getaways during their first year of marriage, seemingly content with each other. Martin suspected Eva of having impromptu romantic encounters, but never voiced his doubts or confronted her. These feelings arose from her past conduct, with no concrete proof to support them. As their second year began, Eva's ardor diminished, and Martin's suspicions returned, but he still couldn't find any evidence. As CEO, Eva had access to everything, both personal and confidential. Their spacious 5 to 1,000 square foot residence seemed extravagant to Martin. He would have preferred saving on the home's expenses and investing the funds. A smaller apartment would have been enough for him, as he didn't require such a large dwelling for just the two of them. In their grand home, complete with a full household staff, Martin enjoyed the pool daily. It was a pool blending interior and exterior spaces, separated by glass, opening to their immaculate Miami estate. The indoor pool was contemporary and spotless, while the exterior soaking pool, warmed by solar power, featured a spa. Martin found it lavish yet justifiable, personally overseeing its upkeep without professional help, guaranteeing optimal pH to avoid algae growth. The new fragrance year commenced in June, drawing media attention. The company launched a new scent before the holiday shopping season, which became an immediate success, endorsed by famous personalities throughout the summer. When advertisements featuring Eva aired in late September, revenue skyrocketed. This triumph put a strain on their union. Eva, always traveling, seldom returned to their residence. Though Martin justified it as professional necessity, he still believed in her vow of exclusive partnership. He suspected something was amiss, as Eva's attractiveness naturally drew admirers. Keeping an eye on the business's finances, Martin knew they had a hit. However, he realized he needed to focus on his private circumstances when Eva returned after Thanksgiving from her month-long promotional tour. She was drained and slumbered for nearly a day and a half. Martin tenderly looked after her, feeling the circumstance was almost surreal. Martin's wife of just over 2 years continued to be enigmatic, alluring yet dependent. During depressive episodes, she sought reassurance but appreciated Martin's domestic kindness. His feeling of being misled lessened with her hectic travel schedule ending. As the holiday season approached, Martin looked forward to spending Christmas with her to reignite their intimacy. Though they stayed in touch while she promoted the new fragrance across the US and Europe, Martin was tormented by uncertainty regarding her loyalty during her trips. He placed tiny surveillance devices across their residence, concealing their positions even from his own knowledge. One evening, he saw himself on camera with his zipper undone, grasping the camera's capability to capture any illicit encounters at home. The visual and audio fidelity was superb, creating a premier surveillance setup. Martin suspected Eva had affairs while traveling, but couldn't dismiss the chance of them happening at their dwelling. Observing the property served as his initial move in revealing any disloyalty. Their timetables seldom coincided for lunch or after work, allowing Eva the opportunity to bring someone back discreetly. Each room in their home was fitted with a triple camera arrangement, powered by backup batteries. The footage was transmitted via the web to a main cloud server, each camera storing 24 hours of video and audio on memory cards. These cameras were wirelessly synced to the main cloud server, only reachable by Martin with a private code. A custom program enabled him to see visuals from every area on divided displays or magnify particular recordings. Martin's cautious planning ensured he could monitor everything. A video of Eva, the CEO, caught in an illicit encounter would be sensational news for tabloids. Martin hoped the simple risk of being revealed would be sufficient to stop Eva. After the holidays, when Eva skipped meals repeatedly, Martin became anxious but was relieved to have the cameras. They had enjoyed a wonderful holiday with numerous presents and a romantic period akin to a honeymoon. Returning to work, Martin observed a shift in Eva, yet the cameras displayed only fondness and tenderness as he examined the recordings each day. Eva asked him to travel to their manufacturing plant in China by late January to verify records and production standards. Though wary of her proposition, Martin agreed, knowing the journey would span 2 weeks, ample time for Eva to possibly engage in an illicit relationship. This time, however, he thought, I possess surveillance. After Martin left for China at the end of January, Eva developed her own agenda. She intended to ask Braxton to dine at her residence rather than an upscale South Beach eatery. She perceived no necessity to entice Braxton, given his obvious attraction during their previous meal. Eva enjoyed her paramours visiting her, which provided a feeling of authority. Braxton desired Eva and saw Martin, his superior, as inadequate and incapable of pleasing her. He considered himself the ideal companion and thought he could leverage this liaison to secure the finance chief role with Eva's backing. Eva summoned Braxton to her office later that day. He promptly obeyed, waiting in the lobby until her aide admitted him. Eva valued his punctuality and resolve. Braxton, I appreciate your quick arrival. Let me be direct. Care to dine at my home this evening? I'd like to go over the sales data for our latest scent. Please be there by 7 and bring your sales reports. Certainly, I'll bring the sales numbers. From my perspective, the campaign has been outstanding. Excellent work, Mrs. Terry. Thank you, Braxton. Call me Eva when we're by ourselves, as we will be tonight while we dine and review the figures. Get the address from my assistant on your way out. Braxton was taken aback and slightly let down by the lack of further flirtation, particularly after their previous outing went so smoothly. He assumed Eva was being careful to prevent office gossip. Regardless, he understood what the night held. She desired him, evident from her gestures, such as moistening her mouth and playing with a strand of hair. Eva had a protection squad tracking her digitally and personally. Martin didn't know she inspected the residence monthly for gadgets, yet he knew about her close protection. Her team uncovered Martin's concealed cameras soon after their placement. Eva chose not to reveal them, instead inquiring if they could be briefly deactivated without Martin's knowledge. Thus, she could manage the narrative and assert her blamelessness. Her head of security cautioned against turning off the cameras, concerned it might heighten distrust. Instead, he proposed a gadget to disrupt the camera's radio signals, causing a blacked-out display. Eva thought this clever and had the signal blocker put in, believing Martin would lack evidence even if he doubted her. Arriving home at 4:30, Eva unwound in the main bathroom with a glass of white wine, reveling in the warm currents and froth. By 5:30, she stepped out and donned her bathrobe, feeling utterly relaxed. She had previously told the cook to make supper and wished to confirm every detail was flawless, including refilling her wine. "Martha, is everything prepared for the meal?" Eva asked. She noted the dining room, arranged for two with candles, exactly as she had specified. The menu featured lobster bisque, a crisp blue cheese salad, and baked Chilean sea bass with almond beans. A dish Eva particularly enjoyed, perfectly complemented by her chosen vintage. Martha confirmed all was ready in the kitchen. Eva merely needed to activate the ovens and stovetops at the opportune moments. The dinner promised to be magnificent, and Eva felt certain Braxton would assist in setting the table. As they savored their wine, Eva, feeling mischievous, delighted in orchestrating the night's forbidden encounter. At 6:15, she went to the bedroom to dress for the evening. She used a remote control to disable Martin's cameras, which would now show only static. With dinner with a new client on her calendar, another scene was about to unfold. Now that the cameras were off, sipping wine and glancing at her closet, Eva decided what to wear. A business suit felt too formal, and a short skirt seemed too revealing. Her new red dress with heels and pearls, purchased in Paris, was perfect. It was unique, and she was glad to have acquired it. She picked out lingerie to add a touch of old-fashioned allure for Braxton. She chose a matching red and black lace garter, intimate apparel, and bra that accentuated her figure. She pulled on black nylon stockings over her smooth legs, imagining Martin's reaction if he saw her. She dismissed the thought, confident only the young could satisfy her. She was sure Braxton was ready to please her multiple times in her marital bed. She felt no guilt, feeling entitled to her desires. Just as she finished dressing, the doorbell rang at 7. Braxton was punctual, boosting her ego and desire. The cook and butler had left as ordered. Braxton looked impressive in a light blue shirt, dark blazer, navy trousers, and polished boots. His neat black hair and intense steel-gray eyes captivated her. As she opened the door, she reminded herself to prioritize dinner and sales figures. He brought wine and flowers, warming her heart with the thoughtful gesture. None of her past liaisons had such romance, which she found exciting. She offered Braxton a drink, which he declined in favor of sparkling water. She poured herself more Chardonnay, the wine for the evening. As she heated the soup, she double-checked Martha's instructions to ensure everything was set. Martin landed in Tokyo and was waiting for his flight to Beijing when his phone alerted him at the gate. He noticed the camera system was malfunctioning. The cameras showed only static. Frustrated, he tried everything in the app to fix it, but couldn't resolve the issue. He decided to contact the security company for a refund. Eva and Braxton enjoyed their dinner of soup, salad, and appetizers while reviewing sales numbers. Braxton had a glass of wine but no other alcoholic beverage. Eva didn't mind, thinking if he performed as well in bed as at dinner, he'd be worth it. During dinner, she seductively ran her stockinged foot over his ankle. Braxton initially looked surprised, but then smiled and pointed to the profit margin for the new scent. She smiled back, feeling like a cat toying with a mouse. "Braxton, do you like older women?" she asked, putting her heels back on. "Only if it's you, Eva," he replied casually. "Since we share that interest, maybe we should move to my bedroom. It's been a long day, and I'd like to see the first quarter sales forecasts." "What about your husband?" he asked. "Martin? He should be boarding his flight to Beijing soon," she said. "Lead me, my love." Braxton took her hand. In the master bedroom, Braxton was impressed by the unique designer decor. Eva sat in a high-wing chair away from the bed and crossed her legs, shaking one heel. "Please help me take off my heels, Braxton," she said playfully. Braxton saw it as an order. He removed his jacket, placed it on a chair, and kicked off his shoes. Kneeling at her feet, he eagerly obeyed, determined that this temptress would submit to him by the end of the night. Eva kicked off her shoes and turned around. Braxton unzipped her dress, revealing her creamy shoulders and back. When her dress fell to the floor, she turned sharply, and Braxton embraced her, kissing her deeply. She responded eagerly, feeling electric jolts of excitement. As they kissed, Eva unbuckled Braxton's belt and pants, then pulled them and his boxers down. She admired his manhood and, in a rush of desire, tore his shirt open, scattering buttons. Braxton picked her up and threw her on the bed, jumping beside her. They embraced, and she felt his desire pressing against her. As they kissed, Braxton unclasped her bra and tossed it aside, his gaze intense. Eva giggled as he kissed her cleavage, making her tremble. "I need you, Braxton, now, please." "As you wish," he replied. Eva was ready, and Braxton smiled wolfishly. He was almost too much for her to handle. She realized he could be more than just a fling, perhaps a long-term lover. This thought made her blush and feel guilty. This was her first affair since marriage, and she was no longer a carefree socialite. Her infidelity weighed heavily on her mind, and she nearly screamed for Braxton to leave. She knew he wouldn't understand her feelings of betrayal. While Braxton gathered his clothes, Eva whimpered quietly in bed. What had she done? She felt she had desecrated herself in her marriage. Martin was her first marriage by choice, and although he lacked charm, he had intelligence and love for her. She thought maybe she could work on his charm. After all, who else would tolerate her after a month-long promotion trip and help her so much in the office? Braxton took the hint and left the bedroom silently, smirking as he closed the door. She knew he would return, and he did too. He left his socks under the bed, wondering if the housekeeper would mix them with her husband's laundry. Martin had just landed in China. Still nervous, his expensive cameras had failed. He wanted to call Eva, but decided against it since it was past midnight in Miami. What would he learn? He doubted she would admit to an affair on the way to the hotel. Martin suspected Eva's security team had found and disabled the cameras, but why? He feared it was because she was cheating. If true, it would end the partnership. He valued trust, honesty, and loyalty as crucial to him. Without proof, he only had doubts and suspicions. Next time, there would be no doubts. Martin's trip to China was uneventful and disappointing. He verified the numbers, inspected the assembly line, and observed quality control. Though he pretended to understand fragrances in the process, his Chinese counterparts knew he was clueless. 2 weeks later, only Eva knew about his return. Expecting her absence, he was surprised to see her at the airport, running toward him in a beautiful red dress, pearls, scarf, and high heels. She greeted him enthusiastically. "Marty, I'm so glad you're home. I've missed you so much," she said, wrapping her arms and body around him and kissing him deeply. Martin, shocked but happy, returned her passion, wondering if her enthusiasm was due to guilt. Pulling away for breath, he asked, "To what do I owe such an ardent greeting?" "I just missed you." "Can a wife miss her husband?" she replied, pouting. "Of course I missed you too. Go home. Martha prepared dinner for us. I just want to be with you today." Martin saw guilt in her eyes, despite the cameras failing him. "Sounds great. What's for dessert?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. Eva grinned playfully. "I'll have dessert." They spent the weekend in bed, eating, making love, and showering together, reminiscent of their honeymoon. On Monday, they showered together, ready for a new day at the office. During her weekend with Martin, Eva felt something she never experienced with Braxton: love. When Martin hugged her, she felt wanted and protected. Their time together confirmed Martin's deep devotion and care, contrasting sharply with how Braxton had used her the previous weekend. Realizing this, she dismissed thoughts of Braxton, not wanting to spoil the glow from her fabulous weekend with Martin. Martin drove to work in his Ferrari, a car Eva hated for being loud and too fast. He usually drove a Tesla, but opted for the Ferrari after his 2-week absence. Eva took a taxi to work, preferring to catch up on emails she had ignored, while showering Martin with affection. Her plan seemed successful, as there was no indication Martin suspected Braxton had visited and stayed over the previous weekend. Martin was also relieved that Eva chose not to accompany him. He was puzzled about why the cameras suddenly started working the day after he tried to watch them. He was meticulous and wanted the security company he hired to find out what really happened. He called them on his way to work. He had given the security company a key for their initial setup, so access wasn't an issue. On Monday, all the staff were off, so no additional details were expected. By late morning, he was informed that the cameras were functioning correctly, but the specialist mentioned that today, when they inspected the house, they found something unusual. There was another electronic device with repeaters installed that wasn't there during their initial setup. They weren't sure what the devices were, but speculated they might be some kind of jamming device interfering with the cameras. Martin quickly deduced that Eva's security had discovered and somehow disabled the cameras. Martin's heart sank. He realized that Eva must know about the cameras. Now he was convinced that Eva was cheating on him in their own home. There could be no other explanation. If she had approached him and asked why the cameras were installed, he would have simply said, for their personal safety. But she didn't. She knew they were there and deliberately disabled them. After lunch, he began to take preliminary steps to protect himself financially. Eva asked her personal assistant to have Braxton meet her at her office at 10. Gina had been with her for the last 10 years, always loyal. She earned more than most in the company. Her loyalty was bought and paid for by Eva over the years. But Gina already knew what was going on from the moment Braxton was called into Eva's office. She loved Eva, even dreamed of one day becoming just like her. But what she did to her husband was simply wrong. He had no idea that Eva was having fun with people like Braxton, just like she had with others before she got married. While Gina hoped Martin wasn't completely clueless, she would have liked to warn him about his wife's extracurricular activities. He was always kind to her, never talked down to her. In fact, he treated everyone the way she thought he would. He was friendly, outgoing, and genuinely cared about people in the company. She understood why Eva was so drawn to him. Martin was very fit, clean-shaven, with bright blue eyes. Although he was a little older than her 35 years, she still considered him quite young. She even shivered slightly when he came to Eva. His clothes were not his best attribute, as she was sure Eva had pointed out to him. But Gina believed there is always more to a person than clothes. People made clothes, not the other way around. At 9:55, Braxton sat next to Gina, ready to meet Eva. It was unusual, she thought, that Eva didn't ask him to bring documents to make their meeting look more realistic. Was it just a private liaison? Surely Eva wouldn't just have fun with Braxton in her office. Gina could be listening under the door, which would likely be closed upon Braxton's arrival. She could also turn on the intercom and pick up the phone as if she were talking. It would be risky if Eva saw that the intercom light was still on. Eva called her on the intercom. Gina responded immediately and motioned for Braxton to come inside. He opened the door, entered, and closed it. She continued to talk on the phone as the door closed and pressed the intercom button a second time. She knew she was taking a risk, but most of all, she wanted to make sure something was going on between Braxton and Eva. Braxton, I'm afraid we have to break up. Martin is back from China, and I don't want to take any more risks with you. Braxton shifted in his chair. And what if I don't want to? What if I want to continue being intimate with the CEO of the company? He said it loudly, almost loud enough for anyone outside Eva's office to hear. Braxton, poor thing, I hope you're just being naughty and not threatening me. If that were the case, nothing would work out for you. Eva lowered her voice, hoping Braxton would do the same. Really? What if I told your husband, my boss, about last weekend? Wow, I didn't think you thought so little of me and my feelings. I think then you'll want to do this here, in my office. How about right here on my desk? Eva waved her hands across the table, somewhat dazed but very excited. Braxton began nodding his head. You stupid fool. You'll never see me again, especially in my own office. Who do you think you are? Go and tell Martin whatever you want. It's your word against mine, and I can tell you who Martin will believe. Eva said this with determination, but she felt a trembling from her own words. Well then, I guess we'll just see, Braxton hissed, standing up and heading toward the door. Eva, never one to back down from a confrontation, said conspiratorially. Braxton, before you go, think that our entire affair was documented. A little Photoshop magic, and it will look like you forced me, practically mistreated me. Remember how I screamed at you to stop the first night? How will that look on your resume? You're a cow, Braxton shouted from across the room. That's true, and I will be. But we're done, and so are you. I advise you to look for a job and leave the company peacefully if you don't want to take risks. Eva turned her attention to the papers on her desk as she dismissed Braxton. Gina hung up the phone, quietly listening to everything that was said. Braxton slammed Eva's office door, startling Gina, who immediately dialed Eva's number. Eva, is everything okay? Should I call security? No, Gina, it's okay. Just a slight misunderstanding about the direction the company is heading. Nothing to worry about, but thanks for your concern. Braxton Perrin was disappointed with the result of the negotiations. If you're sure everything is okay, can I get you something? Maybe a cup of tea? Actually, that would be great. Thank you, Gina, you're the best. Gina went to make tea for Eva. She confirmed everything she thought was happening. She also knew that Braxton was history. Should she break her trust in Eva and warn Martin? She was torn between loyalty to her boss, decency toward her husband, and doing the right thing. Braxton stormed out of there as if he'd been scalded, Gina said, putting the tea on a stand in Eva's office. Just a little misunderstanding. Like I said, there's nothing to worry about. Unfortunately, the time has come. I think Mr. Perrin will most likely look for work elsewhere. Wow. I had no idea, Eva, that you knew every detail of what was going on downstairs, even in the finance department. I'm impressed. But why didn't Martin cope? Eva started to get a little annoyed with Gina and her questions. It was her company, and everyone worked for her. And while she didn't owe her an explanation, it might be better to calm Gina down rather than shut her out in this situation. Well, sometimes, when suggestions are given and not taken into account, it is better to nip them in the bud, which is what I did. I saw how the situation was developing and decided to act. Are you saying that Martin told him what to do and he didn't do it? Eva slowly sipped her tea. Gina, thanks for the tea. I need to review some photo shoots. Please send Michelle promptly at 11. Thank you. Gina felt dismissed, as usual. She left Eva's office gracefully but burning inside. How dare this woman treat a good man like Martin this way? It was simply unfair. Returning to her desk, Gina called Martin. Hi, Martin, this is Gina, she whispered, even though no one could hear her. Could you meet me for lunch at 12:30? I need to talk to you. It's extremely important. Oh, of course, Gina. How about Tres Amigos on the third floor? 12:30? Yes. Thank you, Martin. I apologize for the short notice, but we need to talk. Don't worry, Gina. I'll see you at 12:30. Martin was already sitting at a table in the back of the restaurant. He motioned for Gina as she walked in. The waitress appeared as soon as Gina took her seat. They both quickly ordered from the short lunch menu and decided to split the chicken fajita for two. Martin was curious. As soon as the waitress left, he asked Gina what was so important that they needed to discuss at lunch. Gina took a sip of her iced tea and looked at Martin. He was handsome, but he was also married, she reminded herself. But maybe after she tells him everything, he'll file for divorce. You'll probably think worse of me when I tell you this, but I respect you too much not to say it now. Martin was surprised and wary. Gina, you have always been loyal to Eva, even longer than me. I've always believed you put the company's interests first. I could never think less of you as a professional. This calmed Gina a little. She focused and began her summary of the morning meeting with Braxton Perrin. Martin, I think Eva is having an affair with Braxton Perrin. This morning I overheard a conversation between them where it sounded like Eva had broken up with him. She said that since you returned from China, she couldn't risk you finding out. Martin was stunned. His worst thoughts and fears were now confirmed. He took a long sip of his iced tea, saying nothing, looking absent-mindedly at the table. Gina was amazed that he didn't show more emotion, and then one thought came to her mind. Maybe he already knew. Before Martin could respond, a plate appeared on their table, providing a welcome interruption. The waitress left, leaving only the sizzling sound of the chicken fajita for two and a cast-iron skillet on the table between them. Martin looked Gina straight in the eye when he spoke. Thank you, Gina. Martin, what happened to you? Why are you thanking me? I just told you that your wife is having an affair. This is not what I expected to hear. Why aren't you angry? Aren't you ready to confront your wife or even Braxton? Gina's voice rose with each question. Gina, how long have you been working for Sache Fragrances? Martin asked, puzzled. My 10th anniversary was recently in December. Why do you ask? Gina answered excitedly but lowered her voice, imitating Martin. Bear with me. I think everything will become clear soon. How long have you been working for Eva? 10 years. I've always worked for Eva. Why are you asking this? I just told you that your wife is having an affair, and you're asking me how long I've been working here? I don't understand. In all these years you've been working for Eva, has she ever had young men come and go at her whim? Yes, Gina replied, still confused. So what has changed with Mr. Perrin? Are you saying you don't mind Eva taking younger lovers? Sorry, I guess I just never thought you were like that. I clearly overstepped my boundaries. This won't happen again. No, Gina, you're wrong. You haven't crossed your boundaries, and I will never let you think that. What has changed now? Martin pressed. Are you married? This is simply wrong. That's it, that's the difference. I'm married to a woman who can't seem to stop letting men into her bed. And for your information, I don't agree with Eva having a lover, and she knows it. That's why she kicked him out today and almost tried to liquidate me last weekend with physical intimacy. That's probably more than I need to know, but I see your point. Do you think she feels guilty? I know she does, and she also feels vulnerable, Martin answered evenly. So what are you going to do until the end of the day? Nothing. I'm not going to do anything out of the ordinary. I'm going to stay in my office and come up with a plan to get out of a very uncomfortable marriage. How can you be so calm, Martin? Seriously? I had a boyfriend who did something similar a year or so ago, and while I won't pretend to know how you feel since you're married, I was devastated. I spent the entire weekend eating Starbucks ice cream and drinking vodka to drown my sorrows. Gina, I knew Eva before we got married. I knew about her lifestyle. I can't pretend that I really know her. She convinced me that she had changed, but I still doubted. She told me it was all in the past, and she was ready to settle down with one man. She said that one person was me. I believed her. I decided to trust her. She's a chameleon. She can change her spots to suit her environment. Martin, Gina continued, I know that today you are risking your rights and privileges by telling me this. For that, I will forever remain in your debt. I'm going to share something with you, but I need your complete assurance that you will never share what I'm about to tell you with anyone, not even Eva. Can you keep this between us? Of course, that goes without saying. Gina paused slightly, then looked away as if thinking. But I think I betrayed Eva's trust by telling you her secrets today, so I guess I understand why you ask. Gina, I may not be a good judge of Eva's character, but I know I can trust you. I installed cameras in our house while Eva was on a promotional tour. Shocked, Gina replied. Why? I suspected that Eva might be having an affair or thinking about it. All the signs were there. Then, when her tour ended and she sent me to China for a couple of weeks, I was almost sure. The cameras could provide evidence to confront her if she was having an affair. What happened? My understanding is that Braxton was already in the picture by then. Didn't the cameras show what you thought was happening? You probably already knew everything I told you today. I would think so too, answered a gloomy Martin. But somehow Eva must have discovered the cameras and installed technology to turn off the equipment when she wanted to do as she pleased. So that thing she said to Braxton today about the cameras wasn't just a threat. She knew about the cameras and deliberately blocked them from working. How cunning she is. Sorry. Don't be offended. I had no idea. Do you think she actually wrote anything down? If you couldn't see her, that's one thing. But maybe she actually pointed the cameras elsewhere instead of just blocking them. You know you're gorgeous, Gina. I never thought about it. It's very subtle, but perhaps there is some truth in her words. I don't understand all the technology behind this, but I believe it is possible. I'll call my security company and ask them to take a closer look at the cameras. I was so angry that she knew about the cameras and installed technology to block them that I didn't even think about other possibilities. Thank you. Martin, I'm late, and I don't understand any of this. I need to go back, but I think you opened my eyes to something I didn't even know existed. I can't believe the lengths she went to deceive you. I'm not the most righteous person in the world, but I can't sit by and watch Eva take advantage of a decent person like you. You're just too good. I will take our conversation today to my grave. Gina stood up and quickly left. Martin stayed, drank another glass of iced tea, and paid. He was in no rush to return to the office. He felt he'd lost Eva over her little affair. Even if she broke it off, she would always feel she had the upper hand and could get away with it. She might take a break to ensure he didn't suspect anything, but he was pretty sure she'd revert to her old ways once everything settled down. Defeating the cameras to hide her affair was proof of this. Back at the office, Martin checked his voicemail. Eva informed him that Braxton Perrin was no longer working for Sache Fragrances, and he needed to prepare his exit package with HR's help. No explanation. Martin would have to create one, which, given the circumstances, wouldn't be too difficult. There should be a section on the form to insert the reason for dismissal. I had intimate relations with the boss's wife, he thought. At 5, he called Braxton into his office. Braxton, it has come to my attention that you are falsifying company expense reports. I'm afraid we have a zero-tolerance policy for employee theft. Effective immediately, your employment is terminated. Please collect your personal belongings and leave the premises. You have 10 minutes. Security is posted outside to ensure you only take your personal items. You stupid, betrayed man. You only do what your wife tells you to do, Braxton said. I'm sorry, Martin responded simply, questioning his last statement without anger. You heard me loud and clear, you stupid, betrayed man. I seduced your wife, and now you dismiss me to indulge her? You're right, I do what my wife told me to do. I'm firing you. She's my boss. Thank you for confirming that you had intimate relations with Eva. I hope it was worth it. Martin answered again without emotion. You're worthless, you know it. I seduced your wife with incredible ease. What does that say about you as a man? Braxton was now firing all his weapons, feeling very powerful, as if he still had Eva. It may be true, Braxton, but what I know is that you are fired with extreme prejudice. This comes with no references and a bias towards never being hired in your field for the rest of your career due to the expense fraud. It's not good for someone in the accounting department to be accused of a financial crime against the company. And that's all you have? Some trumped-up charge of expense fraud? Braxton fired back, but without heat. Well, yes. And you just admitted to having a carnal relationship with a senior member of the board of directors, who, by the way, is my wife. I think that's all I have, but I think it's enough, don't you? Don't you care about your wife, idiot? So you're saying you're not mad at my affair with her? You really are a betrayed man. Braxton was starting to get impatient. No, I'm not angry at all. In fact, it's a relief. It seems she was never truly mine. I was just filming it. If you need her, feel free to call anytime. She's all yours. Besides, she's had plenty of people like you. Frankly, you're just another notch on her bedpost. I'm sure she's already forgotten about you and is looking for her next conquest. Isn't that what she told you this morning? She may be beautiful, but the cost of maintaining her is too much for my budget. Braxton felt defeated but decided he could provoke Martin into a fight, confident he would win as a former college wrestler. He doubted any swimmer could punch him. One last piece of advice: get tested now. Get out of my office, Martin said angrily, hinting at another surprise for Braxton. Braxton gathered his things and left, seething. About 20 yards from his car, he fumbled for his keys. As he pressed the button, his car exploded in a huge fireball, lifting off the ground before settling back down in flames. If he had been closer, he would have been eliminated. Realizing he had angered a powerful enemy, he reconsidered his actions. The weekend between Eva and Martin was tense. Eva managed to push thoughts of Braxton's car explosion aside, but Martin remained distant despite her attempts to reach out. On Saturday, Martin stayed cold. All Sunday, Eva suspected the cause and decided not to confront it, hoping things would return to normal if Martin processed it on his own. She believed Braxton had told Martin about their affair. Braxton, meanwhile, wasn't intimidated by Martin. He was sure Eva would want him back soon and spent the weekend thinking about her. He couldn't understand why she lingered in his mind more than any other woman. The allure of the unattainable drove him, and despite her marriage, he believed she wanted to submit to his will. He didn't care about his 2-year-old Honda, which firefighters were happy to extinguish. Insurance would buy him a new car. The police found nothing significant in their investigation, only a few burnt wires near the fuel pump, the likely source of the explosion. Martin was planning his next move. He aimed to damage Eva and her lover while taking over the company with Gina as the new face of Sache Fragrances. He realized that despite his efforts with the cameras, Eva would never stay faithful. At work, Martin pushed himself to exhaustion. Week after week, he remained detached from Eva, who clung to him. He showed no affection, only muttering pleasantries. After 6 long weeks, Eva finally gave in to her desires and called Braxton. "Meet me at my house at 6. Don't be late. I need to see you," she said and hung up. Braxton, smiling, had time to shower, shave, and arrive on time. The house was dark, and he wondered if anyone was home. He rang the doorbell, and Eva quickly let him in, disabling the cameras. "Martin is at a conference in Jacksonville. He won't be back until tomorrow. You'll leave once I'm satisfied. Get to the bedroom and undress. No explanations, no flirting," she ordered. Braxton understood it was purely about physical intimacy. He undressed and got into bed. Eva entered with 2 glasses of white wine, handed one to Braxton, and lay beside him, adjusting pillows to talk. "You won't stay the night. Satisfy me and leave when I say. Clear?" Braxton took a sip of wine and nodded. "Then finish your wine and get to work. You almost cost me my marriage." "I'm serious." Braxton wasted no time. Eva felt as if a freight train had passed through her. Martin was just as good as Braxton in almost every way. For her, the forbidden nature of the act was what gave her the high she sought from Braxton. She'd had her fill, but Braxton apparently had other plans. She knew enough from their previous meetings to know what would happen next. "That's enough. I've had enough for today. Take your clothes and get out of here." Braxton didn't like being used, though he did get some pleasure from it. "Who said you could command me?" "I said, now get out. I'll lock the doors when you leave." Braxton was seething inside. As he stepped onto the floor from Martin's side of the bed, he felt something push his leg. He lifted his toes slightly, thinking there was something under the bed. When he lowered his feet again, he felt something metal touch them. Just as he was about to move away, a clang shook both him and Eva. Severe pain shot through his right leg. He tried to move his leg but found he couldn't. He screamed like an animal. The pain was so terrible. He urged Eva to turn on the light. Between gasps of pain, she turned on the nightlight. "Oh my God, Braxton, what's wrong with you?" "I said, get the hell out of my house." She looked closely at Braxton's pained face and knew something was serious. Eva got out of bed and approached him. She turned on Martin's nightlight and took a closer look. She recoiled in shock as she saw what looked like a bear trap catching Braxton, nearly tearing him apart. It was chained to the bedpost. "What's happening? What have you done to me?" "Shut up, Braxton." "I did not do anything, but I think my husband did it." "Oh damn, this doesn't look good. Just stand still." Eva had no idea what to do. He begged Eva to call emergency. Martin's phone alerted him again that the cameras were faulty, but this time he knew they weren't. He had asked his security company to reprogram the cameras to broadcast on multiple frequencies, bypassing the jammer Eva was using to hide her affair. He accessed a server in the cloud in real time to monitor what was happening. He heard the crystal-clear sound of Eva dictating the rules and watched his own private film featuring his ex-wife. After the fun and games, when Eva asked Braxton to leave, he stepped on a mousetrap. In this case, it looked more like a bear trap, but Martin decided it was better to be safe than sorry. A broken nail was hardly punishment enough for stealing his wife. He wondered if Eva would call emergency or let him bleed to death. Braxton attacked Eva. He was in so much pain that he swung wildly at her. He couldn't move more than a few inches with the chain, but he could tell he was losing blood. His strength was much less than just a few minutes ago. Maybe if he could sit up, he could try to get out of the trap. "Eva, I need to go to the hospital. I'll die if I don't get this trap off me. Give me my phone so I can call emergency, please. I'm begging you, like one person to another. We have to get help," Braxton pleaded with Eva. Eva panicked. She had no idea what to do. If she called emergency, they would respond, but an investigation would certainly follow. She found herself in the same trap as Braxton. She even considered getting a weapon and eliminating Braxton to put him out of his misery, then turning the weapon on herself. It was all so surreal. She walked over to her high-back chair and sank heavily into it. Eva always considered herself a decent person, although she might well call herself selfish. Could she allow another person to die in front of her? She remembered how serious Martin had been when he proposed to her. He wanted to make sure she knew the consequences of infidelity. Trust, he said, was more important than almost any other attribute of human character. Without that, there is no relationship. Martin would never trust her again, no matter the circumstances. They would never have a relationship again, no matter the outcome. Braxton sat on the floor, trying to open the trap to free himself. Even with all his strength, he could only open the trap a quarter of an inch. He tried hopelessly, experiencing more pain each time the trap slammed shut. He grew weaker with every attempt to free himself. Eva was practically in a coma. She sat in a chair, staring into space. She knew Martin had set a trap. She knew her marriage was over. And now Martin had lured her lover into a life-threatening trap. He also trapped her. She would have to expose herself to save Braxton. The affair would cost her the trust of the Sache Fragrances board. This could probably topple her reign. Martin continued to watch the video as the drama unfolded. He knew his marriage was over. He might be in trouble with the authorities because of the bear trap under the bed, but Eva wouldn't help her lover without calling them for help. Braxton looked like he desperately needed it. He had already turned terribly pale. Martin thought there was still time for Eva to do the right thing. He thought about calling her, but decided against it. Gina was already out of the shower. He heard the hairdryer working in the hotel. He was just about to turn off the channel when Eva went to her wardrobe and took out a weapon. Martin knew she kept it for personal protection. She took him to the range for training several times a year to stay alert. She was a pretty good shot. She aimed at Braxton and pulled the trigger, but the bullet hit Martin's pillow. Maybe she was trying to liquidate whatever she was aiming at, but it wasn't there. Martin was sitting on the edge of the bed. He watched in horror as Braxton continued to struggle. He didn't appear to have been hurt. A few moments passed before Gina appeared in the bedroom in sheer lingerie and high heels, and Martin closed the lid of his iPad. "My love, remember when I said you could run around Sache Fragrances with your eyes closed? I know, but I thought you were just flattering me. I was sure you weren't serious, although you tried to convince me otherwise," Gina answered flirtatiously. "Ah, but I really meant it. And now I believe that you will have a chance. It's just a matter of time. Can I make love to the next CEO of Sache Fragrances? Only if you promise that you will never make love to your wife again." "I don't like to share," she quickly answered. "Don't worry, my love. I've been faithful to you since we first became physically engaged. Plus, I think it's going to be a little busy for the next 20 or 30 years. The police were called after Martin and Eva's neighbors heard a gunshot. They arrived in full tactical gear, fearing a home invasion. They all wondered why they weren't warned earlier, since the cameras were linked directly to the security company. If one of the doors had been forced, the security company would have been notified, and the police would have been called. By the next morning, Eva had recovered physically. However, her state of mind was still shaken. She couldn't speak. A bear trap was considered a deadly weapon. She was charged with possession of a deadly weapon, use of a weapon to inflict bodily injury, and failure to render aid. Given Braxton's life-threatening injuries, they also accused her of the illegal use of a firearm. Unable to stand trial, the judge sent her to a mental hospital for treatment, where she remained for the rest of her days. Braxton survived. He kept insisting that Eva's husband had set the bear trap, but no one listened. Eva was married, and he shouldn't have been in her bed in the first place. Martin eventually convinced the board of directors that Gina should take over as spokeswoman and CEO of Sache Fragrances. She was 10 years younger than Eva and had the right amount of brilliance. Gina was very familiar with how Eva ran the company as her personal assistant. She also knew all the industry contacts Eva interacted with. The board of directors accepted Eva's absence, not wanting their shares to fall. They also wanted to distance themselves from Eva to avoid scandal. Gina proved she was as beautiful as she was capable of running Sache Fragrances. She followed their last scent with another offering. She always wanted to name the scent and called this one Secrecy. It also turned out to be very popular. She promoted it the same way Eva marketed her fragrance last year. There was one key difference. Martin, as her husband, accompanied her every step of the way. A simple mousetrap, suited to the size of the rodent. Truly the simplest solution,